Hello everyone, welcome to this video. Today I'm going to do a little Q&A and I actually am going to read you something that I wrote about this question. The question is from Blue Sky and they ask, I am so sleepy and do not want to live on earth or even in this life, and my Kundalini is awake. Any advice? And what instantly came to me was something that I wrote to my teacher a few months back when I was really in a gnarly state of consciousness. When I was just really buried in darkness and just in a hell realm. And many days, when I wrote this, many days my day would be I would stay in bed till 2 p.m. I wouldn't even sleep really the night before. I couldn't sleep. I was suffering so much and in so much pain. I couldn't sleep. I couldn't eat. I would wake up at like 2 in the afternoon, or I would just get out of bed at 2 in the afternoon. I would walk into the kitchen and maybe somehow choke down a smoothie. And I would go back out to my studio. And then I'd come in for dinner and not really even speak to anyone, just try to eat something. And then I'd literally just go back into bed. And I did this for days at a time, maybe even weeks. I was in this really, really dark place where I was feeling so hopeless, so disconnected from God. I even remember at times doubting this whole experience of spirituality, of God, and just wondering why do I have to feel this way? What did no one deserves this. I felt this so many times in this period where I didn't feel like living. I didn't feel like being alive. And it was literally just pain and suffering around the clock. And here's what I wrote to my teacher, Cesare, who's an incredible just being, an incredible presence. And I hope I remember to link her website below so that you guys can discover her too. I wrote to her when I was in this place and I was having sessions with her quite often. I wrote, the instructions I've been feeling are, just sit in love and compassion and wait. Even when God emerges in the form of deep and overwhelming darkness, love this too, even though it's horribly difficult at times. Yesterday, I was being blasted by the energy of death, destruction, and annihilation. I just got into the fetal position and let it rip through me and thoroughly have its way with me. Through complete surrender and, like you told me, no longer fighting with life, I felt this deep peace underneath all the death and darkness. Not like a feel-good or pleasure type of peace, something much deeper. And when I made contact with this peace, I realized I love death. I even looked up and said aloud, dying feels so good. Thank you for killing me, God. I needed to die. And then I felt goosebumps and shivers descend into me. Of course, later in the evening, I became completely overwhelmed with grief and hopelessness again, and began fighting with what is, and telling myself this shouldn't be happening. And the peace disappeared and was replaced by immense suffering and a real hellish underworld type of energy and suffering. But I'm understanding that it's enduring the overwhelming darkness and pain that is deepening me to be able to love death, which is not something I ever anticipated on happening in this life. So I share that because I want to point to this place that even when we're in the darkest and most hellish realms of consciousness and energy, there's always this freedom available for us to connect to. And the answer really isn't, I'm not here to solve your problem, Blue Sky, or anyone else's. I'm not here to try to fix this for you. I'm here to inspire you to lean into this feeling of death, to surrender to this feeling of lifelessness, of hopelessness. It's not something we want to just pop out of, something we want to really just sink into deeply and immerse ourselves in it. Because it's truly the best lessons come from hell. And it's in hell where we find our deepest surrenders into grace. When you can have the direct experience of freedom when you're in a hell realm, you have the direct experience of how truly indestructible and unshakable you are. You have the experience that your being is unharmable. I was telling my teacher Craig about this experience. About shortly after I experienced what I wrote here, I went into this state of no self. I couldn't find who was suffering anymore. I kept asking myself, who is suffering? Who is suffering this heaviness, this hellish state? And all I could find was it's the mind. The mind is suffering this hell that I'm enduring. And so when we're in a hellish state, when we're feeling that we don't want to live anymore, it's a beautiful time to see how identified we are with the mind, because it's only the mind that suffers. And we're able to see so much more clearly, oh, here's where I'm identified with egoic consciousness. Here's where I'm fighting with life. Here's where I can surrender my life deeper to God. And when we're in hell, we're really forced to just lay down our life to God. When we're in hell, we can't really go after our egoic desires anymore. It's not even a choice. When you're in such a low state, when you're in so much pain like I was that you can't even leave your bed, that you're barely eating, barely sleeping, there's nothing left to do but to surrender. God cornered me into this place where I just had to surrender. One of the things I wrote down as well is don't judge what you're experiencing in the moment. If you're in hell, don't judge it and say and feel like you're doing something wrong or this shouldn't be happening. It's not that you're cursed in these moments or that you've done something wrong. It's actually that you're chosen. These obstacles, these feeling states are coming to you only to bring you into your fullest self, into your truest self, into your most powerful self, into your most awakened self. One of the ways that I leaned into the experience that I had was I created an at-home darkness retreat. I blacked out all my windows with cardboard, so it was basically pitch dark. And I just went into the darkness fully. And I would just sit in the darkness for days at a time. And I could feel my consciousness, how this is what it was craving. It wanted to explore the darkness. I felt the consciousness, the energy in my being move when I was in the pitch dark. And I felt that this darkness was medicine for my soul. And when we find this freedom, this liberation in a hellish state, in a hell realm, we find that, oh, I'm terribly wonderful. The energy, the body, the mind, you might have a gnarly physical injury. You might just feel terrible. But you're so connected in that moment to this peace that's always there underneath any feeling state. You're so connected to your true nature that there's a deeper sense that you're quite wonderful. You're quite free. And this is how we learn to love the darkness. We cultivate this space of freedom by surrendering our personal will, by letting go of our personal desires, by laying down our life, every ounce of our life, to the divine, to the universe, to God. And we ask the Divine Mother, come into me and do this for me. Divine Mother, come into me and walk this path for me. She will literally do this for you. She will walk this path for you. And this is where the freedom is, because now you've given yourself fully over to God. And so when you look for the sufferer, there might be pain there, tremendous amounts of pain maybe, but you can't find anywhere that's identified with it because you're empty. The darkness has emptied you out. This is the gift of darkness, of hell. This is why the best lessons come from hell, because it forces you to surrender everything within you that's in separation from the Divine Mother, from divine will. My teacher Cesare, who's a extremely enlightened being, so full of love and grace, talking to her, I was telling her, I was praying for God to upgrade my consciousness via huge crown chakra openings and floods of grace and incredible chakra openings, you know, the kind that we all love. And she told me, yes, of course, this is what we all pray for. But she told me that for her, the darkness helped her grow and awaken 1,000 times more than any type of the expansive light experiences. So this is my advice to you, Blue Sky, or to anyone else feeling the energy of death and annihilation and destruction. Turn towards it. Walk into it. Kind of like when a storm's coming, how buffaloes will walk into the storm. When you walk into the feeling of death, when you let it immerse your being, when you surrender to it, when you open to it, you let this feeling empty you out, clear you out, so that you can be a more pure conduit for grace to flow through. You're really letting the Divine Mother have her way with you. And you start to learn how to love death. You don't see death as something to be avoided or something that shouldn't be there. You see it as a natural and a beautiful part of life that is also worthy of the highest love. All right, so that is, I think, everything I wanted to share. one last point. It's starting to rain. Actually, I think I'll leave it there. I'll save what I was going to say for the next video perhaps, but I love you all. Thank you for watching. Thank you for being with you. Thank you for being with me here. Thank you for booking a session with me. I love connecting with you all in sessions. And thank you for your donations and all the support. Namaste.